Hey everybody, this is Perch. Sometimes a comic gets a lot of weight from kind of unnecessary baggage or just other things. A good example of this will be whenever the New Warriors comic finally does ship. That one that had Snowflake and Safe Space and these other characters in there, and at some point it will ship. It's gonna be judged from all of this history and baggage. It's going to be very hard for people to just pick it up and kind of read the comic for what it was. It's kind of like the same example of when you have a trial and they want a jury who doesn't have information about the events that they're going to be doing. It's hard to take that out of your head. So after a year delay, we have finally two comics. We have Nonstop Spider-Man, which is what this video is not about, and then we have Children of the Atom, which is what this video is about. So this comic is by Vita Ayala, and I'll be honest, I don't remember why people were pissed about Vita in particular. Back a year ago, there was something I don't know. There's some reason why Vita was making people insane. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So they have this comic out, and this is basically so a little bit more history before we get into this. This comic was initially supposed to come out pre-Empire. The pandemic kind of delayed it and shut it down. The book did have some rewrites. We don't know exactly what rewrites were done, but you can kind of get a sense of it based on kind of some of the conversations that are going on in Krakoa. I would imagine that maybe there was some kind of Ten of Swords things that were playing into this. I mean, who knows? It's completely speculative. But this comic, as a too long didn't read, I did read this comic. It is. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. It's a lot of not. This comic is it's going to have a lot of videos, but unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people you can't really get in here and really kind of it doesn't have all this stuff in it that I think people would really want to go to town on if they're going to roast this comic. And by the same token, I don't think it has a lot in it that's going to make people super excited and thrilled either. I mean, the art is solid. It's a good, clean looking comic. Has nice coloring. I mean, all that stuff is pretty good. There's some details here. I don't like the costumes, but the costumes are intentional. The costumes are intended to be kind of homemade, kind of throwback type. You know, they're intended to be. To be kind of campy in a way, and so I don't like them for the reasons they're intended. So that mission accomplished, I guess. The thing that gets me in this whole thing is that the writing is it feels poor. It feels like the kids are written in a way that you would kind of you would assume like some somewhat out of touch Hollywood executive would write kids. That's kind of how it comes across. It's like if you were doing the Poochie episode of The Simpsons, they would be shouting out slogans and things like this comic. The way that the kids are written just doesn't reflect. It has that uncanny valley feeling of the people are written in such a way that doesn't feel like real people. But it feels like they're trying really hard. So our comic opens up, and basically we're thrown into the mix where this Children of the Atom team, which I'm not sure, do they ever? I don't know that they ever give the team a name. But Bernard Chang is doing a solid job having these characters come in. They are basically interrupting a Hell's Bells, which are very deep cut Peter David group. And that was they were as it says in the data sheet. I'm gonna be glad when the data sheets go away. I just that's an aside. I know some people love them. It's fine. But Hell's Bells were a group of women that were working under Cyber. Basically they came into conflict with X Factor. This was the Peter David version of X Factor, and there's four of them, and then they don't have powers. So with the exception of Briquette, they lost their powers during M Day, and so they're basically trying to do some crimes here. And there's some banter back and forth, and that's where kind of right out the gate, you wince a little bit because it's like, they're trying to write the characters mostly of the Children of the Atom team like they're not confident, but we get things like Banff goes nighty Nightcrawler, and then he's it's corny kid talk. This is the challenge. So, in fact, one of our first pages says "so corny," and correct, it is so corny. So maybe it's intentional. I don't know. But anyway, the Hell's Bells are basically using flamethrowers and weapons, and they're trying to rob this armored car. The Children of the Atom come in and they stop the crime using powers that are reminiscent of Gambit and of Cyclops and Jean Grey and Nightcrawler and Archangel. And so they accomplish that goal, and immediately they run into Pixie and Magma and Maggot. And on one hand, Maggot is such an interesting character because not a well-loved character. It was on a list of a lot of the worst X-Men of all time, but kind of like Morrow, suddenly it's cool again. What was terrible is now cool. So the mutants basically tell Children of the Atom, that this team, hey, why aren't you coming to Krakoa? Why haven't we seen you? And it's no matter how positively they're trying to write it. Like Magma says, no one's going to force you to do something you don't want, but you're ready, come home. Like in no other comic have the X-Men come off more like an insane cult than in this one. Because basically the Children of Atom are not ready to go through we don't know, there's some secret as to why they don't want to go through. And we flash to the summer house, or the orgy pad, as some call it, where Wolverine and Storm and Scott and Jean and Nightcrawler are all hanging out. And they're playing pool. They're playing mutant pool. No, they're just playing pool. And we get a lot of kind of dialogue back and forth about, we should force them to come up. This is where you kind of wonder, are people reading these comics? Because you have Wolverine, who at one point ran a school with the express idea that you don't force kids into battle. And so here Wolverine's saying, we're going to go get him. We're going to bring him home, whether one or not. He's doing a lot of we don't abandon our own. I mean, Wolverine's talking like Magneto here. And it's this whole dialogue kind of underlines this very odd place that the X-Men are in now, where it's a cult. There's just no other way to put it. It's very strange. So, and that is combined with a lot of support. Jean Grey says something nice about Cyclops, how he's always thinking about things, and then Cyclops wants her to know that he's not against outrage. He wants them safe. And then Wolverine does a little bit of some moral support, and then Jean Grey goes over to Storm and says, you're feeling insecure. And then Storm's like, I didn't want to cause a disagreement. I feel they need us. And Jean says, I love you, your empathy. And it's just like, oh my God, stop complimenting each other. Even in these panels, somewhere in the background, Nightcrawler's just sitting kind of collapsed on a sofa. God, how everybody is super insecure here. Super insecure and wanting everybody to go join the mutant cult. It's strange. This is just written very, very strange. And again, it's weird to see Wolverine behaving this way. It does not sound like him at all. Storm is this whole line about her kind of stammering, I didn't want to cause a disagreement. I just feel I need us. If the game in the X-Men titles is that these X-Men are not the real X-Men and the real ones are captured and hidden somewhere below Krakoa in a prison somewhere that Moira's guarding, and these are all these weird clones with personality disorders, then that's going to be a killer reveal, because that's been my issue with a lot of the X-Men. They don't sound right. They're written in a very strange way, and it's I always feel like the writers have written, they've read some of the Morrison run, but not all of it, and then occasional comics here and there, and their conclusion of what the X-Men are is from a very small assortment of actual writers of the X-Men, and then a bunch of Wikipedia entries for the X-Men. That's how it all seems. Anyway, so we go back to this preparatory high school, and we get this more conversation while people are watching basketball, and we get our standard kind of angry anti-mutant person, and then we get our Cyclops character talked about I'm not a bigot, and she stands up to the bigot, and then the coach says, think about your personal space. But he's drawn with like some chest hair coming out of that piece. So it's like, dude, you got that chest hair kind of coming out. I'm just kidding. It has nothing to do with anything. So anyway, they go back and forth. You get a sense that there's like this romantic triangle kind of idea here. There's this dialogue is at least a little bit cleaner, but it's a lot of just we're using Bernard Chang to do how many pages? 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of 9-panel grids of this basketball game. So there's just a lot of dialogue here that is summing up kind of this little love triangle that they're trying to establish between the Cyclops character and the Gambit character and the Angel character. And so meanwhile on the court, there's people are aggressive with the ball, and so we get the character kind of showing off a little bit about how good a basketball player they are, and he gets stuffed down. So anyway, just some school stuff. Okay, fine. And then we get some talk about how there's this an archive site for mutants and all the rest. So our third act of this comic is basically the characters are going to meet up at night, and they're going to try to go through the Krakoan gate. So they put on their costumes, and they are going to make the trip over to Krakoa, where they belong, but they're not able to. They're not able to go through the gate, indicating that they're not really mutants, that their powers are maybe coming from some other source. So it's kind of like a Thunderbolts style reveal, where the characters are not who they say they are, and so that's the big mystery. Meanwhile, Storm is going to zoom in at some point and talk to them and try and do some outreach program stuff, and that's our comic. So number 1. So like I said, this comic isn't awful. It's not, again, I suspect a lot of people are picking it up just hoping to get the most cringe thing in the world, and it's basically super super terrible. It's not that. I mean, the comic reads fine. Again, aside from some pretty clunky dialogue, the narrative captions, which I know you're not supposed to use in comics, but those are done well. They're fine. That dialogue reads true. It's just the dialogue of the teens comes across like somebody desperately trying to write what a teen would sound like and failing absolutely completely. That's how it comes across to me. But who knows? Maybe it reads good for you. Don't know. But it's the Cyclops Wolverine, the X-Men whole angle is super weird. It just weird in how they dialogue. Why we're going back and revisiting House of M and the M Day and the depowering is weird, especially when, again, it doesn't feel like everybody quite remembers how that went down. Like maybe they didn't welcome. So it sets up a lot of odd parts. This is a weird comic, I think, is probably the best way to put it. So anyway, there you go. Did you pick up this comic? Did you like it? Children of the Atom, like I said, long delayed. So what are your feelings on it? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.